Hello. This morning, I fell over in the middle of the road. Well, actually, onto the pavement. I was carrying two heavy bags of shopping and I tripped up the curb and I shoulder barged the front wall, trying to avoid hitting my head, and landed on my knuckles and my backside in the driveway. I sat on my shopping. Now, I'm not telling you this because I'm wanting some sympathy. I've come away with a couple of bruises and a skinned knuckle, but nothing worse than that. No, what bothered me wasn't the falling over, the pain of that. It wasn't even the embarrassment or the shame. What bothered me was the chap who was stood leaning on the wall opposite of the house opposite on his phone, who didn't even hesitate in his conversation, who watched me stumble and fall, who didn't rush over the road to pick me up, who didn't even call across, "Are you all right?" He just carried on with his conversation. Now, falling over is not unfamiliar to me. I tend to rush at things and I often fall down, usually headfirst down the stairs. Years ago, I fell off my bike in the middle of the road. It was a busy road. I'd been waiting in the middle of the road to turn right, and as I set off, my wheels skidded on a loose bit of tarmac, and I fell over in the middle of the road, and I injured myself quite badly that time. Not terribly, but I had my feet trapped in the tow hooks of my bike, and I couldn't get up. There were cars going either side of me, and I was stuck in the middle of the road with the whole of my side grazed, and people walked past on either side of the road. And that has stayed with me, the image of those people just walking past. Now, I'm not saying any of this for your sympathy, but what I started to wonder about is some of us are wondering what life is going to be like in the new normal, the brave new world that we will enter when lockdown and our restrictions finally finish. And we're imagining a more caring society because that's what we've been during lockdown. We're imagining that we'll be more connected with our neighbours. Some of that has started, some of the thinking around that, with the felling of the Colston statue and the movement of Black Lives Matter. There is more thoughtfulness about those who need more care and consideration, those who have been at the bottom of the pile for a long time. This morning, the conversation is starting around those who were homeless and were given hotel rooms during the lockdown. What happens at the ending of that? Will they simply be thrown back onto the street, or is there something better that can be done? No, what I have been thinking about is, how do we deal with those people who won't engage with the change, who aren't concerned, the unreformed, those who refuse to care, those who refuse to even take notice, those who couldn't be bothered because they're too concerned about their own lives, their own health, happiness or well-being, who are more concerned with perhaps making money or building a business than they are with the well-being of those around them. How do we deal with those? Jesus told a story about a man who was robbed and beaten and left for dead on the side of the road, and all of those people who should have cared and walked past, and who it was who actually helped him. It was someone who came from a foreign land who could have been said to have been his natural enemy. It was in response to a question, who is my neighbour? My neighbour is the person who cares. In the case of Jesus' story, it was a man from Samaria, and we call the story the Good Samaritan. But Jesus also demonstrated how we deal with those unreformed characters who become our persecutors because they refuse to care more for us than they do for the rules or the way things are done. When Jesus had been beaten and humiliated after his arrest in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he'd been put on trial and he'd been nailed to a cross. He called out to his Father in heaven and he said, "Forgive them, Father, because they don't know what they're doing." My hope and prayer is that when our new life starts in full, that we will carry with us God's grace to forgive those who are unable or unwilling to change their ways, who are unable or unwilling to put the needs of others before their own, who are unable or unwilling to care enough to change in their attitudes or their actions. And my hope is that as we emerge into our new world, our new normal, that we will carry that grace in every way, in every part of our lives, that we will not be those who condemn, that we will have the grace to forgive those who become our persecutors. Keep safe.